Do you remember your first trip to a big theme park? I do. And I think I was about 10 years old, and my dad brought my sister and I down from Maine to Florida, and we went to Disney World, and I loved the whole trip. And then when the trip was over, we got in a cab or whatever we got in, and we went back to the airport. And on the way to the airport, I noticed that there were houses here in Florida. And I said to my dad, "Do people live in Florida?" And he said, "Yes, they do." And I thought to myself, why don't we live in Florida? And so I guess that idea stuck with me, because after I graduated from high school, I got on another plane and I came down here to Florida, and it's almost been 20 years later, and Florida is my home. And I now have children of my own, and of course I bring them over to the theme parks. And we love Disney World, and we've also discovered Universal Studios, which my whole family loves, including my husband. And so we've made a lot of trips over to Universal Studios in the last couple of years. And I end up taking a lot of pictures of Universal Studios. So I make a few pages, the 12 by 12 pages that go into my albums, and appropriately enough I call them the Places You Will Go album. But then I'm still left with a lot more pictures. So what I do is I make smaller albums, and a couple of the albums I'd like to show you are these 6 by 6 albums that I made for my son and my daughter. And I made these, actually both of them, in one night, and I made them the night before we went on an adult cruise without the children. So what I did was I took some cardstock, and I had a cardstock stack, so all of the colors in the album go together well. But I just cut those 12 by 12 pieces of cardstock into 6 by 6 sheets, and then I took pictures, and I didn't mat them or anything like that, and I just put them down on each of the color mats, and I just used one sheet. So actually I used the front and the back, and then I just used a Sharpie pen, which is one of my favorite scrapbooking supplies, to write the journaling. And I also taped the top of the book so the kids couldn't pull the pages out, because my kids are still little. And so on the ride over to get on the boat for the cruise the next day, I was able to present these books to the kids so that they'd have something special to know, we love you, we're going to miss you, and also something so that they can remember their fantastic vacation to Universal Studios. And I will have, I'm going to scan in these sheets so that you can see them on the blog at kissandtellscrapbooking.typepad.com. This is the book I did for Mac. And it's real, it's just real simple. And so I try to select the photographs that have to do with that particular child, and go through, and it's really something that they love, and something that's small, so that, when they're curled up in their bed at night, they can use this book instead of a big 12 by 12 album. So I do take a lot of pictures. So even after I've done my 12 by 12 pages for my big albums, and I've done a couple of these mini books, I still find I still have so many pictures of Universal Studios. What am I going to do with them? And that's when I feel like I've journaled all that I want to journal about the trip. So a lot of times I will go then and I use some quotes, and Dr. Seuss has some great quotes. And actually over there at Universal Studios there is a Dr. Seuss land, and we go through and we go on the rides, and Dr. Seuss, I think it's called Seuss Landings. But the favorite part of Seuss Landings for me and the children is the Dr. Seuss bookstore. And we usually end up doing a ride or two, and then we'll end up in the bookstore, and there we'll stay. And so what I've done is I've created, and isn't this a great album? It's very Dr. Seuss-like, but it's an 8 by 8 album. And I've done the same thing. I've used that same stack of cardstock that I used for the other books, except this time, instead of journaling about our trip, I used Dr. Seuss quotes. So here I say, "Oh, the places you'll go." And he's got really, really great quotes. I will have them up on my blog later today. And I just go through and try to, select pictures that will match with the quotes. Fun is good. That's always a good quote. And so I just go through, and it really helps me to use up all those pictures that I took, and it is a great place to keep quotes of an author or something inspirational that you like to read over and over again. A person's a person no matter how small. And this is the finishing one is my favorite one. It's don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And so that's a picture of Allison and her daddy having a hug at the end of the trip. So I hope that these have given you some good ideas for scrapbooking your vacations. I think that when you show your scrapbooks to your kids, you're going to find that their favorite pages are the pages about themselves, but also the pages about your trips. So I think it's really important to scrapbook the trips as much as you can, because not only will you remember those great times, but the kids love to focus on those great times also. And I have one more funny thing to tell you. When I was a child, I always wanted to live in Florida, and I lived in Maine, and it was so cold. And now that I have a son, my little Mac, for the last couple of years, has said he wants to live in the north. So we're going to plan a family trip up to Maine and make some great scrapbook pages after that. So I want you to remember a couple things to keep it super simple and to tell your story. And I'm Katie Scott with Kiss and Tell Scrapbooking.